Hi friends, it's Mrs. Vincent again, and I'm back with some math ideas for you today. So if you watched the video before this, I read to you, if you give a mouse a cookie, if you started with this video, make sure you go back and read this story as well. You don't have to have read the book in order to do the math activities, but it's just a fun little extra. So what I did is this is a math video, and I am going to give you some math game ideas. But it's also a little bit of a craft. If you're interested, you certainly don't have to. But I have found a lot of uses for paper plates in my house. So here is my version of my paper plate mouse. And you can certainly feel free to do the same, because we read if you give a mouse a cookie. So I made my mouse and I made some cookies. In a perfect world, it would look more like a chocolate chip. This is actually yellow. I didn't have any brown or tan paper in my construction pack, so make it work for you, okay? You can feel free to make your own cookies to go along with this story. And again, I have a lot of variations on this game, so you can really pick what works for you, your child, and pick your own adventure is kind of what I'm gonna call this. For very little kids, I'm going to kind of start and work my way up in terms of challenge level. So for younger kids, like I might do this with my daughter who's 3, you can do a number matching game. So where she would have to match the number of chocolate chips in the cookie with another cookie that had the number on it. You can do a matching game. You can have, if you've got mini chocolate chips, go for it. If you want to mini marshmallows, something like that, you could write a number on the cookie, and then he or she would have to count out that number of whatever object it is, whether it's chocolate chips or the marshmallows like I mentioned. So you can do counting that way. That's kind of the very easiest level for a game that you might want to do. Going a little bit harder, a big skill that we work on in kindergarten is addition. So you could make your cookies with numbers on it and turn it into an addition problem. 2 and 5 makes 7. If you wanted to go back and review fact families, you could turn this one addition sentence into an entire fact family. That's a really challenging skill that you might want to go back and make sure your kids are really firm with. So you could do it that way. You could certainly turn it into a subtraction problem. 5 minus 2. The subtraction tends to be a little bit more challenging for kids. You do need to make sure that they always start with the biggest number on that one. So you could certainly turn it into equations and practice addition and subtraction. That's another game that you could play. Another game that kids tend to really enjoy, that competitive level, is like the game of war. And again, at the basic level, you could, again, if you choose to make cookies like this, great. Flip over the cookies, and the bigger number is the winner. And kids, that's, if you noticed on my little paper plate, I took an X-Acto knife. You can, I guess, try it with a pair of scissors, and I cut a little slit in here so that you can actually feed your mouse the cookies. Kids really like doing that. So if you're the winner, you get to feed those cookies to your little mouse, and you could certainly do it that way. That might require you to make a fair amount of those cookies, but the easier way is to just take a deck of cards, and people play this different ways. You can take out the face cards, or you can make them all worth 10, or however you choose to do it. It's really up to you, but this is like 2 decks of cards that I just use for random stuff around my house. You could certainly pretend that those are your cookies, and you could still feed your little mouse the pretend cookies if you were the winner playing war. That's another game you can play. A way to kind of amp up, not just when you normally play war, it is the biggest card wins. But you could use 2 cards. So your child would flip over 2 cards at a time and turn it into an addition problem. And then whoever has the highest number is the winner, and again, then gets to take all 4 of those cards. So you could certainly turn the game of war into an addition game as well, which is fun, kind of amping that game up a little bit. The last idea I have for you, this is one of the last things in the kindergarten curriculum, and it's skip counting. And you can still use those same cookies if you would like. The big numbers that we skip count by in kindergarten are counting by 5s, 10s, and 2s. If your child is very fluent at skip counting by those 3 numbers, you're on like a really good spot for first grade. If you choose to, you can play this skip counting version of the game. So if you've made your cookies and you flip it over, you want to skip count by 2s. And there's a lot of different ways you could do this too. You could count out toys around your house, but you're skip counting by 2s and 5s and 10s. You can do a little exercise version of this. You could walk up and down your staircase. I always tell that to parents as a really good idea to practice your skip counting. So every time you take a step, you would skip count by 2s, 5s, or 10s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, however many stairs you have in your house. You could certainly do that. So again, the big ones, if you're choosing to do a skip counting activity, are 2s, 5s, and 10s. But you'll see that I also included a link to some songs. If children are kind of ready to go beyond the 2s, 5s, and 10s, learning to skip count by 3s and 4s and 6s and 7s and 8s and 9s is the next step, getting them ready towards multiplication, because understanding that multiplication is repeated addition is really the next step. For those who are really looking for a challenge, you can start practicing your skip counting by 3s, 4s, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've included some videos that are super catchy. They're meant to get stuck in that head to help you memorize your skip counting. And again, all of that's getting you ready for multiplication. So I know I've presented a lot of information, a lot of ideas, and my hope is that you kind of take these and kind of store some game ideas away for the summer, looking for ways to play these different activities. Again, from some of the easier, just matching and counting out different objects, all the way up to skip counting and multiplication, which is really fun. And all of that goes along with our if you give a mouse a cookie, we know he's going to want a whole lot of things that go along with it. Again, if you haven't gone back and listened to the story, please do so. I hope everyone is staying safe at home and enjoying the beautiful weather we've had, and I hope to get to see you all very soon. I wish you a very happy and healthy summer, and hopefully we will be together and I'll get to say hello in person. Until then, bye friends.